This is WNNE TV, Hartford, Hanover.
News 31, serving Vermont and New Hampshire from the Connecticut River Valley. Live from the WNNE studios, it's News 31.
Good evening. Democrats have opened the third and most important night of their convention in New York.
Tonight, Democratic delegates will formally and officially nominate Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton to be their presidential candidate and Tennessee Senator Al Gore to be their vice presidential candidate. New York Governor Mario Cuomo, once a leading presidential candidate himself, will deliver the nominating speech. Then the roll call of the states will nominate the ticket. It's also expected to be a big night for former California Governor Jerry Brown. He finally gets to address the convention after much lobbying to do just that. NBC's Sandy Gilmore is standing by live in New York at Madison Square Garden. He brings us up to date on what will be occurring tonight at the third night of the Democratic National Convention.
Well, the convention is underway here at Madison Square Garden. In just a few hours, Bill Clinton will get his long-awaited nomination for president. The Clinton image building continues. Today, a photo op with South Africa's Nelson Mandela here on UN Business, a meeting showing Clinton comfortable where he's weakest, foreign affairs. The candidate jogged to deal with tension, he said. He called tonight's nomination an amazing thing and humbling. Clinton spoke in a PBS-NBC interview.
And I don't want this to be politics as usual. I do want us to have a broad-based coalition.
Mario Cuomo might have been the nominee, but instead will do the nominating.
For anybody who feels that I would have been a useful candidate, my message to them is, then come join me with Bill Clinton.
Jerry Brown still insists on being nominated himself, which allows him to speak tonight. A frustrated Ron Brown, head of the Democrats, hopes he won't go over his allotted time.
We do have a podium that does move up and down. No, that was just a joke, folks. Just a joke. No, we don't.
Well, the Jerry Brown episode has provided some tension, certainly some frustration, not to mention a little bit of news here for Clinton and for this convention. But at the moment, the big story tonight will be that nominating speech by Mario Cuomo, followed by the roll call of the states. Sandy Gilmore, NBC News, reporting live from Madison Square Garden.
Thanks, Sandy. And News 31 has been touching base with representatives of the Twin States who are at the convention this week. Today, New Hampshire Congressman Dick Swett, who chairs the New Hampshire delegation, talked about one main goal of the convention that goes beyond simply having a good time in New York.
But rather that we're making a commitment of hard work through the fall campaign, and this is really a time to realize that our batteries need to be stored up with good energy, that we have networks to establish and people to meet, and make ourselves ready for the battle ahead.
And from Sunapee, New Hampshire, businessman John Rao, who is running for the U.S. Senate, his assessment of the significance of the convention.
I think what the American people and the people in New Hampshire are beginning to think through is, do they want to continue with an administration that they understand and frankly are quite disappointed with, or do they want to take a risk of making a change, which is always of some risk? My sense is that as we move through the fall, the American people, when they start to understand the dimensions of not only the Clinton-Gore ticket, but also the leadership of the Democratic Party around Clinton and Gore, and the quality of people that they're going to bring into the administration, I think the American people are going to go for change.
And of course, NBC will continue with its coverage of the convention tonight. That's starting at 10 p.m. In other news tonight, New Hampshire gubernatorial candidate Ned Helms today delivered the fifth and final of his Team New Hampshire policy addresses. The Democrat outlined his agenda for New Hampshire's children. That plan focuses on improving health care and the state's public schools, as well as supporting families and community-based programs for low-income and troubled youths. During a stop today to our White River Junction studios, Helms said children are one of the state's natural resources and should be invested in.
So many times you hear about spending on government programs, but this is investing in kids. For every dollar that we invest in a kid, in good prenatal care, we save 3 in hospital care. For every dollar we invest in immunizations, we'll save 10 down the line in medical costs. For every dollar in preschool education, $4.75 in terms of dealing with expenses later on.
Helms said he would aggressively seek New Hampshire's fair share of federal funds to help pay for children's programs.
A spending bill approved over New Hampshire Governor Judd Gregg's veto is unconstitutional, says the state's Attorney General. John Arnold says the so-called trailer bill to the budget is actually a budget bill and violates the 1984 constitutional amendment. Arnold says the amendment states the spending bill has to be separate from any law changes. Gregg had asked for Arnold's opinion, claiming the state can't afford the spending called for in the bill. Gregg has now advised department heads not to spend any money or implement law changes contained in the bill until the state Supreme Court rules on its constitutionality.
Last May, Vermont State Police diver Gary Gabbery died while trying to recover the body of a swimmer who had drowned days earlier. Since then, many questions have been asked. Was the trooper's death a fatal mistake or an unavoidable tragedy? Andy Wormser of our sister station WPTZ has some answers, and we warn you that some of these pictures may upset some viewers.
And stay with us. We'll take a short break now and be right back.
The city of Rutland, Vermont may become the next owner of the former Vicon trash incinerator. The city was the only bidder yesterday in an auction of the facility. The tax sale gives the trash burner's local owners, the Meridian Group, 1 year to make good on delinquent taxes it owes the city.
The city has a serious cash flow problem. A tax sale is a collection tool. We use this to bring the money back in so that the city does not have to borrow money, which in turn costs the taxpayers more money.
Meridian owes the city $430,000 in back taxes. The city bid just under that amount for the former Vicon.
Well, after 10 years of waiting, an environmental cleanup is beginning in Springfield, Vermont. A 27-acre site in the Will Dean Road area was put on the Environmental Protection Agency's Superfund cleanup list in 1982. The area, a former dump, later became a mobile home park. Contaminants were discovered in the park's drinking water in the late 60s. Today, workers prepared for the first stage of the cleanup.
The first phase is real important. What that's going to do is it's going to collect what I'll call the western seeps. It's down on Seavers Brook Road. Those were initially the first seeps that anyone saw. There used to be a place where people could go and get spring water, and residents started noticing that it was turning orange. Work that they're starting now is it will collect those seeps, and in turn they will go to the treatment plant.
The estimated cost of the cleanup is $8.6 million.
And stay with us, there's much more coming up. Mark will be in with sports and a look at first-round action at this year's New Hampshire Amateur Golf Championship.
And up next, the impact of the layoffs at Rutland, Vermont's General Electric plant. That's on It's Your Business. Stay with us. A new study shows children in rural areas of northern New England don't have easy and in some cases enough access to health care. Dartmouth College, along with the Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center, has completed a study of 936 rural towns in New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. It found more than half of the towns failed to meet federal standards for doctor accessibility. Those standards say a doctor should be at the most 30 minutes away.
In a motor vehicle accident, being 30 minutes away from an emergency room represents clearly a disadvantage, and there are 35,000 children who are greater than 30 minutes to an emergency room.
Dr. Goodman says there are enough physicians in all 3 states, but they aren't distributed evenly. Goodman is currently working to determine how extended travel time to a medical facility affects frequency of hospitalization.
You may not think tourism and the fight against breast cancer could have anything in common, but coming up in August at Stratton Mountain in Vermont, they will. The state of Vermont and McCall's magazine have formed a joint program to provide women with affordable mammogram tests. The magazine will work with the state to create a fund to subsidize breast cancer screening for low-income and uninsured women. And it has bought a mobile screening unit that will be stationed at the Ladies Professional Golf Association's tournament at Stratton in August. Governor Howard Dean says McCall's is helping the state in 2 ways, by bringing tourism through the tournament and by helping Vermont women screen for breast cancer. It's a very important project, says Vermont Secretary of Development, Frank McDougall.
Vermont, unfortunately, has the 4th highest incidence per capita of breast cancer in the country, and that's a mystery to us all. The LPGA Tour has been affected with some of their star players that have had been afflicted with breast cancer as well. As part of this tournament, with the help of Vermont Blue Cross, there's going to be a portable mammography unit on site for 2 days during the tournament. There's a number that's been announced today here at Stratton where Vermonters can call and sign up to have the test done. We understand some of the LPGA players are going to have mammograms done during the tournament as well. So it's an opportunity to come out and see some golf and also at no cost have a mammogram done, which is something we think is very important.
The mobile unit will be on site during the tournament August 8th and 9th. For an appointment, you simply call 802-297-2200.
Well, General Electric employees are still reeling from the news of a second round of major layoffs. Yesterday, GE laid off 191 workers because of a lack of work.
But the city and GE are already thinking about what can be done to help those laid off and the city rebound economically. More on tonight's It's Your Business. General Electric of Rutland at one time employed more than 2,000 people. Now 1,700 work there. That's because, like so many businesses before, the tough economic times have taken a toll. GE yesterday laid off 191 workers. In February, 250 were let go. Layoffs of this magnitude from one of the state's largest employers affects not only the workers, it's also a blow to the city.
When you lose payroll, when you lose just that income coming into the community and into those families and so forth, they're not going to be buying cars, they're not going to be going out for dinner, they're not going to be doing the things that help support other businesses and other households, other families and so forth. So yeah, there will clearly be a multiplier effect.
Both GE and the city have promised to help find the newly unemployed new jobs.
We don't want anybody who used to work for GE to feel that they have to leave this area in order to support their families. I certainly can't make that pledge because the jobs simply aren't out there. But our goal is to make it possible for every single family that wants to stay here to have the opportunity to do so as long as they want to.
But Wenberg admits it won't be easy to find jobs for 191 people, especially when 90 from the last round of layoffs still haven't found jobs themselves. But the mayor says $35 million in construction projects set to begin before the end of the year will more than make up for what has been lost at GE. Officials at General Electric in Rutland declined our request for an interview, but in a written statement said they will do all they can to help find those laid off new jobs.
And stay with us. Bob will be in next with the weather forecast. Bob joins us with a lovely bouquet, Bob.
Yes, this bouquet is from the 6 and 7-year-olds and the Geo Rangers.
Isn't that nice?
At the Norwich Daycare Center, where I did a weather presentation today. They know I like flowers, and they gave that beautiful bouquet. I thank you all very much. Now, last night we had a tornado watch up for extreme southern Vermont and New Hampshire, as well as much of Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island. We didn't get any severe weather in the viewing area, but in southern New England, tornadoes, waterspouts, damaging winds, and large hail were reported. It's tranquil now with a 69-degree reading, relative humidity at 61%. Pressure is 29.87. It is steady and the winds are calm. Our high temperature today, 71 degrees after a mild overnight low of 62. Sunrise at 5:21 and set at 8:28. On the local map, we have temperatures in the 70s where the skies have brightened up in the North Country, in the 60s for most of us further to the south. This line here represents a half an inch or more of precipitation today. This line running from southwestern Vermont to Keene and Westmoreland and on down into Nashua and over to north of Portsmouth, that indicates 1 inch or more of rainfall. On the radar, there's just a little patch down by Portsmouth. Most of it is to the south of us, some heavy showers and thunderstorms in the New York City area, as well as northeastern Pennsylvania. Satellite view of the United States shows an area of cloudiness over the northeast, but as the continue to progress, they start to break up in the North Country, and they start to get thicker and thicker down further to the south. Another patch of precipitation precipitation down the Southland as well as across the northern plains. Hours from about Indiana, Ohio, eastward into the New York City area, also out in the west. For us, though, we're going to be having a little bit quieter. Skies will be clearing overnight. There'll be some patchy valley fog, and some of it could be pretty dense with the wet ground, especially in southern sections of Vermont and New Hampshire, in the 50s. For Thursday, sunshine. Yes, yes, yes. Sunshine and fair weather clouds, light winds, high temperatures around 80 degrees. Tomorrow night, increasing high clouds, temperatures in the upper 50s. And on Friday, those clouds will be thickening and lowering. And there is a chance of showers before airtime. Temperatures in the 70s. So it's 1 day on, 1 day off, 2 days off, 3 days off, 4 days off.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Flowers for me.
They could be for you if you'd like to watch them during evening hours, of course.
What do you got for us tonight?
Well, no flowers for the National League guys last night as they were beaten to a pulp by the American League in the annual All-Star Game. We'll have all the highlights coming up next.
The mid-season classic last night.
That's right. And if you're a National League fan, it was a mid-season mutt, I guess is what you could call it.
For a fifth straight year, the American League All-Stars have bragging rights to the mid-season classic. Last night at San Diego's Jack Murphy Stadium, the AL pounded out 19 hits en route to a 13-6 drubbing of the National League. Boston's Wade Boggs got a nice hand as he was introduced. Boggs, the starting third baseman, and Sox ace Roger Clemens was an AL reserve. A little tip of the cap there. Red Sox legend and San Diego native Ted Williams threw out the first pitch as President Bush talked some ball with Willie Mays. Top of the first, Boggs gets a base hit off NL starter Tom Glavine, and with Boggsy on first, a shot from the bag cam. Still in the first, bases loaded for A's slugger Mark McGwire, who gets the hit parade rolling.
Bill Glavine was watching that. There's the fourth straight base hit. Boggs has scored. Puckett waved around. Van Slyke's throw, not in time. That's down the right field line. Glynn on the run. He can't get it. Sinking fast. A base hit. McGwire trots home, and it's 4-0.
A record 7 straight base hits by the American League. 4-0. Clemens entered the game in the 4th inning. He gave up a couple of base hits, but didn't spill any blood. He'll get it out of it when Ryan Sandberg grounds out 4-3. More misery for the National League, I'm afraid, in the 6th. Cardinal pitcher and Concord, New Hampshire native Bob Tewksbury serves up a 2-run homer to Ruben Sierra of the Rangers. That made it 10-0 American League. AL wins it 13-6. Well, as for the Red Sox, they open the second half of their season tomorrow night with the first of 4 from Minnesota. Boston goes into things with a record of 42-43, 10 games back of front-running Toronto. We have some news for you regarding the National Hockey League, and in particular, one Eric Lindros, who became the newest member of the Flyers today. Lindros inked a 6-year deal worth well over $2 million per season. Philly acquired his rights from the Nordiques earlier this year. Lindros refused to report to Quebec last season, you may remember, stating he wanted to play for a winner. He's already one of the top-paid players in the NHL. The guy has yet to skate a single pro shift. At Lake Sunapee Country Club in New London today, opening round action at this year's New Hampshire Amateur Golf Championship. The winner of this afternoon's match play format moves on to tomorrow's 36 holes of medal play. Scott Peters from Hanover Country Club hit from the 15th tee 2-up in his match against Steve Cronin. Peters got into some trouble late, but bounced back. Evan Scobie, also from Hanover, had this nice chip on 14. Scobie playing Bill Cahill. Scobie 2-up through 14 holes. Mark Johnson, also from Hanover, he led yesterday's local charge. He was even through 14 holes as he took on Dan Arvanitis. Soft conditions today at Sunapee, but hey, soft for everybody.
It's definitely playing long, but in match play, the conditions are the same for each guy because you're teeing off about the same time and all, so it's not really that bad.
How are you hitting him today?
A little better than the qualifying, but not as well as I'd like. I'm still missing a lot of greens and a lot of fairways, but I'm still out here. I'm even, so I like to keep it going.
Well, unfortunately for Mark Johnson, he didn't remain even as Dan Arvanitis wins that match 2-1. Elsewhere, Scott Peters did defeat Steve Cronin 1-up. Bo Harris took care of Mike Peters 4-3, and Evan Scobie won his match against Bill Cahill 3-2. Congratulations to all. For the third straight year, the LPGA Tour will make a stop in Vermont. The McCall's Classic kicks off August 6th from Stratton Mountain. The $500,000 purse is attracting some of the game's best: Pat Bradley, Vermont favorite Patty Sheehan, and Betsy King. Also, Melissa McNamara, who will be defending her Stratton title.
It's great to be back in this gorgeous state. I'm from Oklahoma. It's a little flat there. In Vermont, the beautiful green rolling mountains. It's a great setting, and I know that all the other girls in the LPGA like coming back here too.
Well, McNamara was at Stratton Mountain today to help promote this year's LPGA event. Seeing as the outdoor golf this morning was a washout, McNamara conducted an impromptu clinic inside the Sports Center. And of course, it was a good chance for yours truly to get some much-needed advice.
Amateurs don't spend enough time on their short game, and that can really, professional, amateur, whatever level, it can save you on bad days.
To sum it up, don't give up my day job.
Well, that's why I'm on the golf course, and you're right where you are.
Eloquently put, Melissa. Thanks for the tips.
Keep working. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, and stay with us, everybody. Still ahead, some employees at a local hospital get some recognition. We'll tell you why next. Well, most people like to receive some recognition when they've done a good job, and today the Veterans Administration Hospital in White River Junction, Vermont said thank you to about 500 of its employees.
The VA held a breakfast, lunch, and dinner for hospital staff. The meals were served by employees to their co-workers.
Each year we try to recognize our employees for their contribution to our center in the previous year. And this year we're doing as we've done. Unfortunately, because of the weather, we're indoors. But it's our way of saying thank you to our employees for all the hard work they've given to us for the previous year.
So what are we going to get?
Exactly. Bob, what are you having tonight? Yes.
Flowers.
Oh, well.
Can't do enough for the vets, right?
That's right.
Good
That's right.
Good point. That's it for us tonight, everybody. Have a great night, and we'll see you again at 11. And don't forget to watch all the convention activities tonight on NBC. See you later.
Good night, everyone.